Hello and welcome to this very special broadcast. I'm Nayanthara Rai, working from home. Today, my guest is none other than the Union Power Minister, Mr. R.K. Singh. The power sector has been lit up by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in the first fiscal stimulus package that was announced, a 90,000 crore rupee booster shot. I'm going to be discussing the fiscal stimulus package, life during COVID, post-COVID, with Mr. R.K. Singh, part of the Council of Ministers of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Mr. Singh, good to see you safe and healthy. You've of course been very, very busy. I am still lucky and fortunate that I can work from home. You do not enjoy that luxury. You have been busy serving the people of India. You have been seen as one of the biggest reformers in the Council of Ministers, Mr. R.K. Singh. And maybe that is the acknowledgement of sorts that in the first press conference held by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, the power sector has got a 90,000 crore rupee lifeline. Can you tell us a little bit more about this massive liquidity boost? What's it going to mean?
Thank you, Nayanthara. Nayanthara, this package has three elements. The first element is this 90,000 crore credit, which we are going to give to the distribution companies of the states. What has happened is that because of the lockdown, the tariff realizations by distribution companies had come down to almost about 10 to 15% of what it used to be. And therefore, the distribution companies were not in a position to pay for the power to the generation companies. Now, we instructed the generation companies that they will not curtail or regulate power during the lockdown, despite the fact that the payments were not coming. We said that the power will continue to flow 24/7, which it has. But the generation companies were under strain because they were not getting paid for the power, and they had to pay for the coal, they had to pay for the railway freight. Now, therefore, is a huge relief for the entire power sector. With this money, the distribution companies will be able to pay to the generation companies, who in turn will be able to pay for the coal and the freight. This will also reduce the burden on the distribution companies, because the outstanding dues of generation companies carried a burden of 12 to 18% as a late payment surcharge. 12 to 18% is pretty steep. This money will be available to the distribution companies at a rate of about 9%, which is about 50% of what they are having to pay currently as late payment surcharge. So, this will be a big relief to the distribution companies, a big relief to the generation companies, in fact, a major relief for the whole sector. This is part one of the package. Now, there are two other parts. The other part is that in the power system, if you do not draw power, if the distribution company does not draw power according to the power purchase agreement, they have to pay a fixed charge for the power not drawn, which runs from 90 paise or 1 rupee per unit to about 1 rupee 50 paise per unit. Now, this was a big burden because all the industries and all the commercial establishments were closed, and the power drawal had declined by almost about 25 to 30%. Now, we are deferring the payment of fixed charges for the period of the lockdown. So, this will be another big relief to the distribution companies, and which we expect the distribution companies to pass on to their consumers. Some distribution companies have already announced a deferment of fixed charges by the industry for the period of the lockdown. So, this will help the distribution companies, and it will help the industries which were under lockdown. The third element of the package is for the consumers, the domestic consumers. We are giving a discount of about 20 to 25% on the power drawn during the period of the lockdown, and this applies to the public sector, to the CPSU generating companies, NTPC and other central government generating companies. They have come forward to give a discount of 20 to 25% to the consumers. So, the package has three elements, and it covers the entire gamut of the power sector: the domestic consumer, the industry, and the viability of the DISCOM and the GENCOs. So, we are all from the power sector, we are all very grateful to the Prime Minister for this package, Nayanthara.
Mr. R.K. Singh, if you will indulge me and allow me to ask you specific questions on the three elements that you have highlighted, I'd like to first begin with the 90,000 crore rupee liquidity boost, which you said is very badly needed with the kind of losses the discoms are going into, the very fact that financing the cost was also at a steep rate of 12 to 18%. Sir, there's no free lunch. And in this case, it's going to be your two power companies, PFC and REC, that are going to come to the rescue. The money, this 90,000 crores, is going to come from them. So are you expecting them to raise the money from the market? Are they going to go to debt? Is there going to be some major paper and bonds that are going to be floated by them? What exactly is the idea? Will they be expected perhaps to dip into their own cash coffers?
Then Tara, PFC and REC were set up for this purpose entirely. They are in the business of financing the power sector, and they have been doing this. They raise bonds both within the country and outside, and then they lend to the power sector, whether it is generation companies or distribution companies. So they are doing what they have always been doing, which is in the business of financing. Now, the one dispensation which they are giving is that their normal spread is about 2.5 to 3%. That means, suppose if they borrow something at, let's say, 6% or 6.5%, they would add 2.5% on that and then lend to the generation company or the distribution company. In this case, we have requested them to reduce their spread to 1.5%, so that the distribution companies are able to get loans at lower rates of interest. But they are doing what they have always been doing, what they were set up for. This is not something new. And the loans are guaranteed by the state governments, as they always are. The loans from PFC, REC are generally given out on state government guarantees. So this loan is also given out on state government guarantees. This actually is not going to harm the PFC, REC. It will increase their turnover. And that is their business, as I said.
Yes. So basically you mean they will have to reduce the spread. It's a discount of sorts that they will have to do, which is their part, let's say, in the war against COVID-19. That's, of course, I would imagine the big thought process out there. But the fact also is, sir, that, is the market getting crowded out? So much government paper, so much paper of PSUs out there. Is that a concern at all?
Yes, yes. Basically, the concern is that with this quantum of borrowing, the rates may go up. That concern is there. But we are trying to, our PFC and REC officers are trying to borrow at the least cost possible. That attempt is there.
Mr. R.K. Singh, one of the biggest reforms that you've also been initiating is to also have a glide path for losses for discoms. I understand that this all is a legacy issue. I take that point very well. But one of your biggest reforms have been to make sure that there is a glide path for losses being reported by discoms. So is that going to be possible given the fact that there is now a black swan in the form of COVID-19?
Yes, I don't see that the glide path needs to be dispensed with. The reduction of losses is on the agenda, will remain on the agenda till the losses are brought down, and they will be brought down. Believe you me, Nantara, in this exercise also, when we are giving the money, we are expecting the distribution companies and the state governments to continue to take steps to bring down the losses of the distribution companies. We will be helping them to do it, but that has to be done. And apart from that, the government, state government departments owe almost 54,000 crores to the distribution companies. We expect that money to be paid by the state government departments to the distribution companies in 3 annual installments. And we expect that the state governments will put in place a system whereby in future the state government departments pay to the distribution companies for the power they draw promptly every month. So that also we will be looking at.
In fact, sir, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in the press conference also said that all dues to public sector undertakings, any receivables from the Central Exchequer will be cleared in 45 days' time. So, of course, this will, of course, also help in reducing the losses of discoms. Sir, I'm going to ask you the one question that I think a lot of Indians, if they have the opportunity, would ask you. Next week itself, North India could see soaring temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius. We are in a lockdown. There has been a reduced demand when it comes to electricity. But when we go and as we head into the summer months, sir, any disruptions because of COVID, will they have 24/7 electricity? That's of course a big promise of the Narendra Modi government.
Absolutely. Nayantara, we have made sure that we have sufficient stocks of coal, and we have currently stocks of coal for about 27-28 days, which is, I mean, more than required. So 24/7 power will continue to be available even through the, the highest degrees of temperature in the coming summer months. So you need not worry about that. We have made sure that we have sufficient reserves. And God was also kind in the last season. We have sufficient water available in our reservoirs for hydro. So we are in a good position insofar as power generation is concerned.
So, sir, you were able to make sure that even though there was a lockdown, that the power plants had enough coal, there was no coal shortage, there was no disruption. And like I said, because of the lockdown, of course, there was a reduced demand, right, for coal at that point. So there's enough inventory. Just to get more clarity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, we had stocked up even before the lockdown.
Okay. Sir, if I could also now ask you, because the deferment of the fixed charges, which you said certain discoms have already passed on to consumers, and it is expected for them to pass on to the consumers. You want to explain to us, sir, and everybody who's tuning in who wants to ask the Power Minister this question, what happens if their fixed charges have not been deferred? What should they do? How is it that the government is indeed going to ensure that discoms pass it on, and who is therefore also going to fund this deferment? Is it going to be a case where consumers later on will have to pay this additional burden? Is it going to be the Central Exchequer? Could it be some PSUs?
Now, as far as the deferment is concerned, we will make sure that this deferment is passed on to the consumers. And this is a deferment. We are not doing away with the fixed charges for this period. We are just deferring it, and it will be repaid. You see, for this deferment for this period will be repaid after the system reopens in 3 monthly installments. Basically, the burden will only be the carrying cost involved. That is all, which our CPSUs are in a position to bear. That is no issue. But we will make sure that this is passed on to the consumers, and I don't have any doubt that it will be passed on to consumers. It will be. And the other element, the third element, is that we are also giving a discount on the power charges for the period of the lockdown. And so the consumers will also get a benefit of about 20-25% on their power charges. And this also we expect to be passed on to the consumer. We will be giving this to the distribution company in the bills by, to the distribution company, the bills will come down by 20-25%. And we expect the distribution companies in turn to pass this on to their consumers.
Okay. So, you're also in charge of renewable energy. I think COVID-19, the lockdown has taught all of us to look inward, think about how we have been plundering the environment. So, you've been focusing a lot on renewable energy. Once again, there were certain legacy issues that needed to be dealt with, certain mistakes that even this government realized was wrong in the auction process, negative pricing, all of that. So, how much of the focus is now of the Modi government on renewables? you have enough inventory right now when it comes to coal, but can we see a ramp up? Because, because of COVID-19, factories are shut, the economy is hurting, and obviously, that aspect will also be impacted.
Now, Tara, the good news is that we continued working even during the lockdown. You will be happy to know that on the 16th of April, we finalized a bid for 2000 megawatts of solar power at 2 rupees 55 paise, which is pretty good. Then just a few back on the 8th of May, we finalized a bid of 400 megawatts of round the clock renewable power, which is again one of the first, this is one of the pioneering efforts in the world. Round the clock renewable power with solar wind hybrid and storage, battery storage, so that it is available round the clock. And that also we fetched a very good rate at 2 rupees 90 paise. So we have continued working. The installation process has suffered because of the lockdown. The workers were not able to come to the site. We expect that work to restart now, and we will pick up where we left off. And we are also very focused on encouraging domestic manufacturing. We had one successful bid of manufacturing linked tender was successful for about 1000 megawatts of solar panels and solar cells, which will be an additional capacity set up here for manufacturing. We will be coming out with another bid for manufacturing. So we are focused on our target, and we will just carry on from where we left off.
Sir, that's good and heartening to hear that work has been carrying on. But if I could just come back to the entire issue of the central utilities, because of the lockdown, what NTPC, etc., have not been able to do. There are a lot of reports out there, a lot of experts who say the loss could be as high as 30,000 crore rupees. The last thing we need, sir, is more losses being incurred by the power sector. We have seen how this has been a perennial problem. In fact, it was only because of you we also saw, that big slugfest when it came to the bankruptcy law and all of that. Sir, are you on top of this? I'm going to ask you this also on behalf of all the nervous investors, the people who might be jittery when it comes to the power and utility stocks.
I don't see that, number one, as far as the CPSU generating companies are concerned, they are all making healthy profits. Calling it huge will not be proper. I just say that all our companies are making very healthy profits. All the companies belong to the central government. So they are making very healthy profits, and they give a very good dividend to the central government for its shareholding, and that will continue. That is continuing. As far as the distribution companies are concerned, many of the distribution companies are making losses. They are stressed, and they need to reduce their losses. For that, they have to increase their efficiencies in metering, billing and collection. They have to increase their efficiencies in reducing theft. They have to ensure that they realize the money for the power supplied, and the state government departments are one of the major defaulters in paying for power. So we have been urging the state governments that they should shift their departments to smart prepaid, so that some states have already done that. The states do not pay the distribution companies for the subsidies announced by them. So we have been emphasizing that this needs to be done by the states. And incidentally, these are the things, these are the conditionalities we are attaching to this 90,000 crore bailout, that these things must happen. And if these things happen, you will see the distribution companies turning around. Our tariff policy, new tariff policy, has also been cleared by the group of ministers. So hopefully, I think we should see it materializing in about a month's time. That has a number of reforms which will make this sector more viable.
Incentivizing, this lifeline is going to be incentivized.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, the fact that we are making money available to the distribution companies to pay to the generation companies will strengthen the position of the private power generating companies. So you will see the shares of the private power generating companies also going up, as well as the shares of our power companies also going up, because all their, you know, legacy dues, outstanding dues with the discounts will get paid. So in fact, the sector is going to benefit. As I said, I want to thank the Prime Minister and Nirmala ji for this package. It's a huge relief and it will boost the sector.
Sir, if I know you at all, I'm sure you have some other requests which are pending before the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister's office. I know these are privileged communications, so I'll rephrase it and put it like this. What, according to you, would be some of the urgent interventions that would be needed by the central government for electricity, power generation and the sector at large?
We have some more reforms lined up. You know, we have some amendments to the Act lined up, which we have circulated to the state governments for their comments. And I'm quite sure that you know, we should be able to get these amendments materialized in the next session. You know, get these amendments introduced in the next session of Parliament. We have a scheme lined up for helping the distribution companies reduce their losses, and we'll be helping them, but this help will be conditional on their adhering to the trajectory of loss reduction. So these two initiatives are also on the anvil. Ultimately, then Tara, I can promise you this, that a year down the line or 2 years down the line, the distribution companies will be much healthier than they are today, and the rest of the power sector is already healthy. And because the demand is going up, the rest of the power sector is already healthy. The distribution companies will also be much healthier when we speak about this 2 years down the line.
Okay, and sir, before I let you go, I want to ask you one question. Mr. R.K. Singh, you know, you're also a very astute politician. You understand governance, given your role before you became and entered the Council of Ministers. Sir, the lockdown would have been very hard on you. You would have had to keep lakhs of people motivated so that the millions of us sitting at home continued to have electricity without disruptions. How has this challenge been? How did you tide over it, sir? And you know, at the same time, I know how compassionate you are. And you know, you do come from Bihar, those heartbreaking images of the migrant labor. You know, how did you handle all of this?
Tara, I really am so grateful to all the workers in the power sector. They continued working without you know, without letting up at all throughout all this crisis, while of course taking care to sort of maintain that social distance, to wear masks, etc., and observe all the precautions. But the power system needed to continue working, and it continued working. You see, this is the basic requirement for the entire system. If the power is not there, even the ventilators won't work. No operation theatre will work. So our workers understand that, our engineers understand that, and they have, you know, their morale has been high, and they are actually proud that they have continued working, and they have continued making sure that the power is available 24/7. So I am so grateful to all the officers and engineers of this sector. Even during the lockdown, even when we could not come to office. Of course, we started coming to office quite some time back. But even then, we used to meet every day, all our officers through you know, video conferencing, and discuss as to what was happening and what needed to be done. So this sector is good, and the people are motivated. Thank you.
Sir, also if I could just ask you that how would you also, while being in the center, discharging responsibilities as a Union Power Minister, also, you know, simultaneously be on top of things at your constituency in Bihar? It would be fascinating if you could share that. And also I'm asking you, you know, this is a state where a lot of people leave, they are laborers, they are migrant laborers. So how did you deal with all of that? How did you divide all your time?
Yeah, I have help, Tara. I have officers who help me. I have PSs, APSs, OSDs. And so I have been in touch with my constituency. My district hospital in Ara required PPEs, they required masks and some other equipment which we made available through the CSR funds of some of our companies. Our people needed masks, etc. So that also we made available. Our people are scattered throughout the country. They have been working different places, and many of these places they ran out of food. So we could organize food for them through the district administration of those states. I am grateful to those states and the district administration of those states. So it was a challenge. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. It is a major challenge. The first part was food. All these people scattered all around the country from my constituency. The second part is now they want to go back home, and you have to keep telling them that you wait for the lockdown to end, and so the trains will start. Then you can go home. They are actually very impatient to go back home because because of the lockdown they want to go back to their village and see how things are there. Talking to them and telling them to wait, counseling them is something which is being done, has to be done. I can empathize with them and their problems. They have gone through a lot, and the faster the trains run, the faster they can go back, the happier I will be. It is a human problem. It is a major human problem.
And completely unprecedented, sir. No one saw this coming. It's a black swan. We could have never prepared for it. But here is one of the biggest reformers, Council of Ministers to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in charge of how all of you are staying at home watching this interview. Mr. R.K. Singh, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and indulging us with this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Netara.